And a good morning to everyone. This is the XP Billionaires podcast. Yes, I just tried to combine the words morning, afternoon, and evening. I'm pretty sure I failed, but I wanted to be welcoming to all those who listen whenever they listen.
Valiant attempt.
Thank you. I very much appreciate that. So it's XP Billionaires podcast. This is Rayfe speaking, and as you've heard, we've got Sky Knight and Irene Rogue with us as we try to have on a regular basis, if you haven't figured it out already. Sky, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm fine. Comfortable.
Well, it's always good to be comfortable while we're recording, so that's definitely a good feel. And Irene, how about you? How are you doing today?
Not bad, not bad. It's been a bit of a weekend, but, could be worse.
Yeah, it definitely could be. Well, it's been a while for this, so why don't we take a couple quick minutes to do the not so regular, I should say, check-in. Irene, what have you been playing lately?
Oh, well, I don't know. Nothing much has released in the last little while that I've been playing. Borderlands 3. Borderlands 3! It's all I've been playing!
Surprising no one.
Surprising no one. It is very good. However, I hope that Gearbox releases a couple of patches soon, because, Jesus Christ. It's not nearly as polished as its predecessors. I fell through the map infinitely the other day. I was walking down a corridor, teleported to an outdoor map, and then just started falling.
Yeesh.
Yeah. It's a very strange bug. Also, all my money disappeared once.
I hope you didn't have a lot of it.
I had $10,000. I was a little mad. It's a lot for that time of the game.
Oh dear.
I ended up with $100 left. It was like, where did my money go? It's like it just dropped a couple of one of the digits or two off the end of my cash total. I was a little bit upset. Also, it's not particularly well optimized, so even my beast of a machine struggles with it sometimes.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. And, I know Gearbox doesn't typically listen to the bigger people out there that are content creators, but maybe they'll listen to one of the little ones. So, Gearbox, settle your shit.
Yeah, honestly, the game itself is excellent. The story's great. The characters are really fun. The guns are, honestly, they've really put in a lot of effort into figuring out the gimmick for each of the different, gun manufacturers, and making them fun and, really different from each other. They all feel different with alternate firing modes and stuff like that. So, they've clearly put in a lot of effort here. A lot of love has gone into this game. Also, I love their little shout out that I hope that they don't go back on their word to put in stuff like gambling mechanics, because they have put in just in-game currency slot machines like they always do, but they've called them the loot boxers, which just mwah. It's perfect.
Sassy.
Yes, very. There's a lot of jokes like that in these games, and I very much appreciate them trying. So I really hope that they do fix it up soon, preferably. Probably, you know what? They probably will by the time it hits Steam.
Well, fingers crossed at this point. All right, Sky, what have you been playing?
I've been playing a couple of things. I've been playing Greedfall, which is going real great now. I've gotten a hang of playing a mage, and I'm actually finding combat fun now. And yeah, the characters are great. The story's been great so far. Yeah, that one's really seems to be worth the money. So if you're looking for something new to play, I recommend. Been also playing, The Sims, as I always do. And I took a wee spin into Dragon Age Origins. I don't think I'm going to stick with it.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Oh, I'm tired of generic fantasy, and it's generic.
Origins, I think, doesn't really get into the meat of some of the politics of the world until a little later, so it does require you to stick with it a little bit longer than I can understand why some people wouldn't.
Yeah, well, and it's just the setting is uninteresting to me. I mean, there's only so many things that can lean so hard on Tolkien before I start getting real tired of it. So
I didn't find it very Tolkien, but
Well, the traditional Western fantasy, the dwarves and the elves and all the infighting and all the racism.
I
And
actually really like that about that world.
yeah, no, it's just almost every character is a complete asshole.
Yeah, that was kind of the appeal. I love listening to them bitch at each other. But I get it. It's not for
Yeah,
everybody.
it's just like I don't like any of you, so why would I keep playing? But you know what? We'll see. I might change my mind yet. I do love my little dwarven noble who is cute as a button.
I would get at least past the section right after you become a Grey Warden and get past the battle at that particular keep that you've been recruited to go and help defend, because that's kind of where the story really takes off.
Yeah, I have. I've
Oh, you
gotten
have?
that far. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it didn't take me very long. Plus, like the combat bores me witless. So it was just like, you know what? I tried it, but I think I'll probably stick with Greedfall for the next little while.
Okay, that's fair.
All right. Well, as for me, I have also been playing Greedfall thanks to Sky's 3-hour Twitch stream they did when the game launched. Really got me wanting to play it, and I did. And I've been taking a couple of different story arcs and paths that Sky had. Unfortunately, a lot of the choices I made had me killing a lot of innocent people at the beginning, so that made me really question my moral choices. But I'm getting a little bit better. I'm able to talk my way out of situations more. I've built up a charisma stat, which has been excellent there. Yeah, no, that's been a lot of fun. And I'm also doing something a little on the old school side. I now re-own the entire Xenosaga trilogy, so I am playing through that. And I am having a lot of fun going back into that. I'm a little over halfway through the game now, I believe. The first game, I should say. And yeah, having tons of fun with it. But on that note, let's now dive into our topic for this week. So we here at the XP Billionaires are firm believers in physical game releases. Digital releases should also exist, but they should not be 100% replacement for physical media. There's something about holding a game case in my hand that makes the collector in me scream like a preteen at a pop music concert. I'm too old to know who's popular nowadays, so I couldn't come up with anything there. I'm sorry.
I think the Justin Bieber is popular.
God, I hope not anymore. That said, if I'm looking at a game that I haven't done much research on, the cover itself may make or break whether or not I decide to buy it right then and there. So often a cover is done, fairly well and really catches the eye. But as we all know, this isn't always the case. So for this reason,
it's time for another good idea, bad idea.
You heard him. So this week we're giving you our picks for the best and worst RPG game covers. Now, before we begin, as to note, as you haven't figured it out already, we are in Canada, and we will be talking specifically about North American covers, though we will likely reference other regional covers if necessary as well. But when we're talking the cover, we're talking the North American release. So, like our regular good idea, bad idea formats, we're going to start the round table and we're going to each give off both our good and our bad idea when our turn comes up. Now, who's drawn the short straw this week? Well, that is Irene. So let us start with your good idea. What's a good RPG cover?
So, I had to actually think about this a little bit, and I usually research my games ahead of time, and it's very rare that I don't know what I'm buying when I buy it. But then I thought just recently there was one game that got me to basically buy it almost sight unseen just by looking at the cover, and that was The Sinking City. It was the cover art combined with the trailer that really got me. Just this really almost surreal. So what the cover has on it is it's a very minimalist kind of cover. It's got like the protagonist centered in the middle with like just this wonderful blue background around this like wreckage of a city with this large creature sort of looming in the mist behind him. And it just really caught my attention from a from a game perspective. I really liked the aesthetic they were going for, you know? Like, here's this half-drowned city with just one dude plus this impossible being just looming over all of it. And you didn't necessarily look like, the hero to end all impossible beings. You were just some schmuck with a backpack. Like, it really, I think, conveyed what the game was going for thematically. Now, the reason I say this was a really excellent cover is that the game itself is janky as fuck. The combat isn't fun. It's kind of broken in some places. The animations could be a little bit better than they are. Some of the mechanics are not very obvious, and there is no reason to ever play this game in not easy mode on combat because combat just isn't fun. But that artwork that they had on the box art, the promotional cover that they had was just perfect. I think it really helped convey that whole Lovecraftian Cthulhu theme that it was going for, and I really, really liked it. And it was part of the reason why I ended up, buying it and streaming it that day.
No, fair enough. All right, well, let's shift gears, and why don't you tell us what your bad game cover is?
So, full disclosure, listeners, we actually had a big discussion on which one of us was going to talk about this one. And we decided it should not be Sky for once, because Sky always talks about them. But there was no way we were going to do this bad game cover topic without discussing the North American cover for Suikoden, the original Suikoden. Oh my god. Where do I even start? So I want our listeners to picture the 1980s and picture Conan the Barbarian movie poster style, fucking artwork. The stuff you'd see on the side of a van. That kind of artwork. And that's what they decided the cover of the first Suikoden game needed when it was released in North America. I still remember Sky sat me down and pulled out their physical copy of the first Suikoden and was like, this is the cover. And I was like, the fuck is this game and why are you playing it? It looks like trash. And I know you love these games. Also, I know these are JRPGs. Why are there all these Western characters on it that look like they're out of a bad fantasy novel cover? And then we actually sat down and were trying to figure out who these people were. Because the cover of the North American Suikoden box features pretty much no one from the game. They're just generic fantasy people. You want to talk about generic fantasy people?
Mm-hmm.
The main character, Tyr McDull, has a very distinct green bandana and red tunic. There's not a single person on that cover with the green bandana and the red tunic. And I remember us sitting there looking at all the people and trying to figure out, well, maybe this could be this person, but his whole costume is wrong, but he's got the broadsword and the haircut, kinda? It looked like somebody had basically been told, it's a fantasy video game, and we need a cover for it. And then they're like, okay, I'm not going to bother to play it. Or, even load it up. Or even look at the Japanese cover for it.
The final irony of this, of course, is that they actually used the Japanese cover on the interior for the instruction manual.
Right! It's right there!
Yeah.
You open the box, and there it is. There's the Japanese cover. So it looks like you've got, this box for a game that is completely different than the one that the manual is for.
Yeah, it's like they actually were just given a very rough description of certain elements within the game. There's dragons and a castle in the middle of the lake, and there's an emperor with a mustache and a sword. There's one character who I can pretty safely say is the main villain, because he actually mostly looks like the main, well, not the main villain, I would say, but one of the major villains. And the rest, I can probably give you rough guesses, but they don't really look like anybody.
No, they don't. That's the thing. I mean, and like the main characters, like they have distinct costumes. Like Tyr and Gremio. Gremio has this bright ass green like cape, and Tyr's got that bandana. Like there's a lot of really distinct features on a lot of the different characters.
Well, and Gremio's scar too, right?
Right? Yeah.
Like
Also, aren't Flick and Victor in the first one? I can't remember.
yeah.
Yeah, like Flick's got that whole blue outfit and the blue bandana going.
Yeah, like there's even my rough guesses for who these people are on the cover, like aren't even the people you spend the most time with in the game. Like
No.
even if they were done properly, it's just like, why would you pick these people?
Yeah, they're like randos that maybe like you get halfway through the game, maybe.
Yeah, like, and a couple of villains, a couple of people who are important, but they don't figure into it a lot.
Yeah, I think at one point we were sitting down, I was like, well, this is the only woman sorceress on the entire cover. Like, only woman magic user, so that must be Windy? It looked nothing like her.
Yeah. Like, there's one there that I think is maybe Windy, and one that's supposed to be Leknot. We're guessing, right? They're not clear.
They're not remotely anything like their in-game counterparts.
No, not at all.
It sounds like this person was told, like, draw this cover, was given a bunch of bare-bone details, went and did a shit ton of drugs, and then decided to just slap the artwork that he was, like, working on for his van on the side of the cover.
The one thing I do appreciate about this cover is that, at very least, this is going to sound like such a low bar, but hear me out. But at least all the figures, the proportions look right. You know, like a lot of those early like 80s and 90s cover art, if you actually look closely at them, they were done by people who knew nothing about anatomy.
This is true.
Sticking out of weird places and stuff like that. So, like, at very least, it doesn't suffer from that particular issue.
But everything else is wrong. We're throwing in a bone here, listeners.
Yeah, I'm throwing it a bone because it's one of my favorite games of all time. But oh dear God, the cover is bad.
Yeah, honestly, I'm surprised because it's like, it's a great game. It is a wonderful game, and people should totally play it. However, if you had to judge it by its cover art alone, you would think that it would be something that you would just, like, smoke a lot of weed and play it like that because it was going to be some sort of weird Conan ripoff.
The final blessing is that I don't believe that cover is shown on the digital version on the PlayStation Store, which is such a blessing.
Yeah, they used the original cover, the original Japanese cover, because of course they did.
You ever notice that there's a rune that they sort of stuck behind the title text, and it's just a generic fire rune?
It's not even like the true Soul Eater rune, which is like the whole fucking stories about this rune.
Yeah, like, it's not Soul Eater. It's not any other important rune which is in the game. Like, a bunch of true runes are mentioned within the game. And now it's a standard fire rune for reasons I don't know.
Because fire is cool, Sky. That's why.
Yeah, that's all I got.
Like, yeah, dude was like, Soul Eater? That sounds lame. I'm just gonna make a fire. Yeah, it's bad. It's a very, very bad cover. You should not judge the book by it, but like, holy shit.
Yeah. They did it no favors.
No, they did not. It very much like feels like, yep, we are only making 10,000 of these, so like, just put whatever you want on it.
God.
All right. Well, that those were some great choices there, even though one may not have been forced upon you. But all right, let's move on. I'm up next for my good idea. For my first one is a game we've talked about earlier on in the episode, and that is Greedfall. This is interesting for me because this is a Western RPG with a cover that I actually kind of like. And it's a fairly new title, too, which makes it kind of cool. The Greedfall cover does a wonderful job illustrating exactly what you're getting out of the game. The cover shows your main protagonist, otherwise known as Desarde, on a ridge overlooking the expansive island of Tir-Fodi. It makes no secret that seeing this vast environment, that there's going to be a huge exploration element involved in this game, and that this area is going to be your playground. The volcano in the background also leads to a potential danger that could occur in the story, and that the game is set in a fictional fantasy colonial era. This is described based on what Desarde is wearing. He's wearing your typical colonial explorer's gear that you would see in history, tricorn and everything. So the cover is super clear in giving you a quick synopsis of what you're expecting out of the game without using words. And this is one of the reasons why I like it so much.
Yeah, it's a good cover. Of course, he's wearing like the long colonial coat, too, right? So he's got a bit of a swashbuckling feel to it almost. And that sort of thing catches people's interest. And of course, they went with the male version of Desarde, but, c'est la vie.
Oh, don't worry. We're getting into that with my bad idea. All right, well, let's move on to that one then, because there's really not much else to say about Greedfall. If you haven't seen the cover for it, check it out. You'll know exactly what I mean if you do decide to play it. But moving on to my bad game cover. This is a surprising one even for me, because when I was thinking about bad covers, I did not think my mind would go in this direction, and therefore I surprised even myself with it. But my choice here comes from Shadow Hearts Covenant. So this is an example where the front and back imagery of a game cover should have probably been swapped. Now, before I get into any more detail on why I think this was not a good game cover, it is partially related to the focus on the character on the cover, Karen. Karen is a hugely important character to the plot of Shadow Hearts Covenant, and there's no question on that. The secret she doesn't know about her past and her future role in Yuri's life is very significant. But that being said, she's not the main character. Yuri Hyuga is really the main character of the story, and he should have been on the cover. Now, I don't like saying this because it make me sound like a bit of a douche sometimes. I don't know, it's just personal feelings there. But I'm going to say it. Karen is only on the cover because she's a busty redhead in a tight, skimpy top. There, I said it.
I mean, yeah, that's fair. This is not the first game that's done that, and they will certainly not be the last.
Well, I know. And don't get me wrong. You wear what you wear. That's totally fine. I got nothing against what anybody chooses to wear in any way, shape, or form. But this was the key selling point for people to pick up the game at first glance, or as I've been putting it recently, at first ogle.
True enough.
Yeah. Like, this was really unnecessary for two reasons. Like, first off, anyone who's played the first Shadow Hearts would buy this game without fail, regardless of the cover, and there's no doubt in my mind they would be telling all of their friends how awesome the game is. It was not necessary to cater to horny teenagers to get new gamers to buy it. That's point one. Secondly, the Japanese cover already had an amazing set of artwork with Yuri on the front. It was an awesome image, a nice close-up shot of Yuri, his hand lit a flame, and it's on what was similarly the same kind of background. There was absolutely no reason to change it in the first place. Now, what I said earlier at the beginning is that, Karen should be on the reverse side because absolutely she is an important character, like I was discussing. But the absence of the main character really doesn't sell that this is also a continuation of his story. They just decided to go with the sex sells method, and really, even in the game, playing it through, there wasn't really enough risque situations for the game to merit that.
Well, yeah, and the thing was, if you actually look at the Japanese cover, Karen is on the back of it, and Yuri is on the back of the English cover.
Correct.
So, like, it's rather transparent what they were up to.
Yeah, and it's such a shame. And like, if it did happen to get a few more people buying the game and playing it through, good on them in a way, I guess, because Shadow Hearts is an amazing series. Everyone should be playing it. But come on, guys, there's a better way to do it.
They thought it would sell more copies, but I don't think it probably actually did. Because, like, yeah, Shadow Hearts is a little game that, like, people who weren't going to play it were not going to buy it regardless of who was on the cover.
Yeah, but at the same time, we do a lot of word of mouth here. And even back in the day when we first picked up the game, we were telling everyone about it when we started playing it. Like, I can remember, like, every time I find something really, really good, I was like, hey guys, you should play this. If this is your thing, you should play this. If it's not, I'll stop bugging you.
Yeah, pretty much. But,
Yeah.
like, my point is that, like, people who played the first Shadow Hearts game, especially since this was a sequel and not a game in and of itself, just a standalone, I'm not sure they would have gotten, like, more sales based on boobs.
Well, they tried something anyway.
Yeah, it was a cynical marketing move, and I'm not sure it did them any favors.
Yeah, no, exactly. All right, well, that is my set of covers. I hope you guys enjoyed those. We're going to move on to Sky's choices. So let us start with your good cover.
All right, so I chose the cover for Fire Emblem Awakening on 3DS. And what I love about this cover is that it takes such a good spin on the generic JRPG artful arrangement of the main cast. Like, when I started looking at game covers, went to the shelf, looked at them, it's just like, so many of them are just, oh, the characters artfully arranged. But with this one, instead of having them just standing around, they arrange everyone doing a downward, like, battle lunge. Except for the character, the masked Marth, quote unquote Marth, who is lunging up in the opposite direction. The end result is a really striking cover that catches the eye due to the very strong movement. Like, everything's moving in diagonals, which is pretty unusual for a cover. The background is just like a light gray. It's just left more or less blank to let the movement and the character design do all the talking. And they packed a bunch of characters onto that cover.
All the central ones, at least.
All the central ones, and even some that were, I would argue, less central. But it was intriguing looking, and I mean, it worked on me. It was my first Fire Emblem game. I picked it up pretty much on a whim. Also, I'd like to give it kudos for having multiple female characters on the cover and not just leaning on one sexy female character. Don't get me wrong, Tarja's on the cover, but she's like way at the back. And she's less prominent than some of the other characters like Sumia or Lisa. So, yeah. That was my pick for the good cover. Now, I'll move on to the bad idea cover, which is the Final Fantasy VI cover on the SNES in North America. So what was originally called Final Fantasy III. I love this game. In fact, I love all the worst cover games we've listed.
Yep.
But dear sweet gods, this cover is bad.
Yeah, I think, doesn't it just have like a Moogle and a sword on it?
More or less. But it's a little more complicated than that and a little more terrible. So, if you look at the cover, you think the game is about some sort of shadowy monster trying to kill a strangely proportioned Moogle. Like, if you actually look at the Moogle closely, it looks like it's bouncing along on a single tiny peg leg with two massive arms. And that's my best guess, because it's really hard to tell what limbs are what with this Moogle. I literally have no idea how it stands on a leg that small and a body that massive, if I'm understanding the proportions of this Moogle correctly. And it also has this really strange expression that I don't even know how to describe. And this is just the Moogle. So most of the scene is just taken up by this giant purple shadow of some sort of mysterious creature that doesn't look like anything distinctive. It looks like it's trying to grab the Moogle. Like you see it's got the shadow claws are above the Moogle. Now, the text of Final Fantasy III is just very cheesy, overdone, medievalish gold lettering with a generic looking yet over-decorated sword for the T in fantasy. In that very specific way that they over-adorned things in like 80s and 90s Western fantasy. Also, the sword has like a light reflection effect on it. Like there's this part where it's shining below the words. Except the light effect looks like almost like a clip art explosion. It's just a spiky outline thing. It's so bad. The final insult to injury with all this is that the original box art for the Japanese release is gorgeous. It's a beautiful Yoshitaka Amano painting of Terra in her Magitech armor looking over the city of Narsh. So basically, it's directly connected to the start of the game, beautifully executed, and actually interesting to look at. And we got this crap in North America.
Yeah, we certainly got screwed out of the good cover in that case.
A little bit.
Yeah.
All right. Well, those are the covers that we've chosen, both good and bad. I hope you guys liked what we had to say about them. And if not, or if you have some covers you want to let us know about, please let us know about them online. You can reach me at Twitter at BillionairesXP. You can show me the covers on Instagram at Rayfe, or you can check out my weekly streams on Wednesday night, 7 p.m. Eastern at the same name. Sky, where can everyone find you?
I'm at SkyKnightXP on Twitter and Twitch. I'm at skyknight.xp on Instagram. And I stream on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern.
And Irene, where can everyone find you?
You can find me at irogue_XP on Twitter and Twitch. I stream on Thursdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Time.
Awesome. And as always, we will have our transcript for the episode available within the next few days, courtesy of our XP Hobo. And don't forget to follow them on Twitter as well at XP_Hobo, I should say.
Whore. Sorry.
Hana's gonna love you for that one.
And don't forget to check out our coffee page for all the latest news and updates to what we're doing for our website, which is coffee.com/xpbillionaires for that. And the website itself, I should say, is xpbillionaires.wordpress.com. So check out both of those sites. You'll see anything new that we're doing. But the coffee page will give us all your new stuff about special events that we might be holding on Twitch or just on our website. All right, that's going to be it for us this week. And just remember, don't let the outward appearance fool you. Find that inner beauty and keep gaming. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.